This morning, before the light was fully up, I carried a hand mirror from the cedar chest to the kitchen table and set it face down on the oak. I have not turned that mirror over in 11 years, not since the week I buried my husband. My fingers know the brass rim by feel now, tarnished, cool, worn smooth on the left side where someone's thumb rested 1,000 times. That someone was me. I was 17 years old when I married Eli Graber in a ceremony that lasted over 3 hours. And in all that time, the courtship, the visits, the vows, the hymns, the 200 faces watching, he did not look at me. Not once. Not my mother, not my sister Leah, not the bishop who blessed us. None of them thought this was wrong. What happened later that night in the upstairs room, what his eyes looked like when he finally turned, I have told no one. My thumb is on the brass rim now. I am going to tell you. Before I go back to that September, before I show you the first time I saw even the shape of him, I want to ask you something. If you are listening to this late at night, alone, in a room where no one is watching you either, then you are in the right place. Subscribe to this channel. It costs nothing. It just means I am not saying these things to an empty kitchen. And tell me in the comments, what is the smallest detail you ever memorized about someone who did not know you were looking? My father told me on a Tuesday in September of 1964. He said the name, Eli Graber, the way you would say the name of a road you are about to turn down, not with feeling, with direction. I was 17. I had seen Eli's family at fellowship meals, but I could not have told you which one he was. By Sunday, I knew. I found him in the Yoda barn during the morning gathering, 3 rows ahead on the men's side, by the width of his shoulders and the way he held his hymnal slightly higher than the men beside him. The service lasted 3 hours that morning. I spent every minute studying the back of his neck. The dark hair cut straight across, the white collar pressed so flat it looked painted on. He did not turn. Not when the bishop raised his voice. Not when a child cried near the door. Not once. I memorized the way his right ear folded slightly inward at the top, a small soft crease, and I held that detail like something I had stolen from a room I was never supposed to enter. The sun came through a gap in the barn slats and lit that folded ear for perhaps 10 seconds. I watched the light touch him the way I was not allowed to. Then the hymn changed, and someone shifted on the bench between us, and the light moved, and the ear was just an ear again. I looked down at my hands. They were trembling in my lap, and I pressed them flat against my apron to make them stop. I did not know the colour of his eyes. I did not know the shape of his mouth. I did not know whether his face was kind. I knew one folded ear and the set of his shoulders during a hymn, and I carried those 2 things home like a girl carrying water in her cupped hands, trying not to spill a single drop on the long walk back. He came to our porch for the first time on a Thursday in October, when the afternoon light was the colour of cold cider. My mother set 2 oak rocking chairs facing the east field, brought out 2 cups she did not stay to collect, and closed the door behind her. I heard the latch click. Then I heard him sit. His rocker had an uneven creak, a low groan on the forward lean, silence on the back, and it moved slower than mine. I did not look at him. He did not look at me. That was the rule in our district. A courting couple sat side by side and spoke toward the open land, eyes forward, eyes down. The body yielded before the vows, and the eyes yielded last of all, and we were nowhere near the vows yet. I learned his voice that afternoon the way I had learned his ear, in pieces, by theft. It was low and unhurried, with a slight catch before he said my name, as if he had to decide each time whether he had permission. He came 3 times over 6 weeks. Each visit lasted about 23 minutes. I know because I counted the ticks of the tall clock through the window behind us. On the 3rd visit, the cornstalks beyond the porch rail were dry and rattling in the wind, and he said something that stopped my rocker mid-creak. He said, "I will try to be good to you, Hannah." Still looking at the field, his voice caught on my name the way it always did. I wanted to reach across the narrow space between our chairs and turn his face toward mine with my hand on his jaw. I wanted it so badly my fingers ached. Instead, I folded my hands in my lap, knuckles white, cider untouched on the porch rail going cold. I said, "I believe you will." And I meant it. But what I did not say, what I could not say, was that trying to be good was not the same as wanting to look. If you are following along with this story and something in it has caught in your chest, I want you to know there is a guide in the description below this video with more stories like this one. You can find it there whenever you are ready. But stay with me now, because the wedding was 1 week away and I had still never seen his face. The last Tuesday of November, I finished my wedding dress by kerosene light after midnight. My sister Leah was asleep in the narrow bed 3 feet from my sewing table. The dress was dark blue, no lace, no adornment. The fabric was heavier than I expected, and when I held the finished bodice up against my collarbone, it pressed cool and firm, like a hand laid flat. I should have folded it and gone to sleep. Instead, I opened Leah's drawer. Quiet, slow, 1 inch at a time so the wood would not scrape. And I took out her hand mirror. The same mirror that is on my kitchen table now, face down, 61 years later. I held it up to my face, and I looked at myself the way I imagined he might look at me. I had never done that before, not once in my 17 years. I studied my brown eyes, which my mother once said were too wide for a humble girl. I studied my mouth, which I had trained since childhood not to smile too broadly. I studied the prayer cap that covered the hair I had been told was my glory, and therefore my danger. I was rehearsing for his gaze. I knew that. I knew the word for what I was doing. Hochmut, pride. The most dangerous sin in a plain girl's heart. To want to be seen. To prepare your face for being seen. To hold a mirror in the dark and practice being worth looking at. I felt the shame of it hot behind my ears. but I did not put the mirror down. I tilted it until the kerosene flame caught in the glass and my face split in two, one half lit warm, one half in shadow. And I thought, this is what he will see. Half of me, the lit half or the dark half, and I will have no say in which one the candle finds. Leah turned in her sleep. I slid the mirror back into the drawer. I folded the dress. I lay in the dark with my face still burning and my hands still open. In 6 days I would stand beside a man I had never looked in the eye and promise him the rest of my life. And he would promise me his, and neither of us would know what the other's promise looked like, because we would both be staring straight ahead. The ceremony was 9 days away when I put that mirror back. It would be the last time I looked at my own face before someone else did. What happened in the bishop's front room that December morning? How close I came to seeing him and still did not. And what happened in the upstairs bedroom after the last guest walked into the dark? I will tell you next. The bishop's front room smelled of beeswax and pressed wool, and something sharp and green I could not name until later. Celery, bushels of it, already being cut in the kitchen behind the wall for the wedding meal. It was the first Tuesday of December 1964, 9 in the morning. 200 people on backless benches arranged in rows so tight their knees nearly touched. I walked in from the women's side and sat where I was told. He was already seated across the aisle. I could feel the heat of that many bodies in a closed room, the way the air thickened with breath and waiting. And somewhere inside that warmth was him. I did not look. The bishop began, and I fixed my eyes on my own hands the way I had been taught. 3 hours. The bishop spoke about Gelassenheit, the yielding of the self, and I heard the word land in my chest like a stone dropped into a well, falling and never hitting water. During the 4th hymn, I turned my head 2 inches to the left. I do not know why that hymn. I do not know why that moment. But I turned, and for perhaps half a second I saw the edge of his cheekbone, the line of his jaw, and a small pale scar near his chin I had never known about. It was no wider than a grain of wheat. I wanted to press my thumb against it. I wanted to ask him where it came from, and whether it had hurt, and who had been with him when it happened. I looked back down at my hands. When the bishop asked if we would be faithful, Eli said, "Ja," and his voice broke clean in half on that single syllable, the way a dry branch breaks when you step on it in the woods. I did not know what the break meant. I said my own "Ja," and it came out steady, which surprised me, because nothing inside me was steady. We were declared married. We had not looked at each other. I was someone's wife, and I still did not know the colour of his eyes. What happened next is something I have carried for 61 years. If you are watching this because someone shared it, or because this channel found you late at night when you could not sleep, I am glad you are here. There is a guide in the description below, with more of what I have kept quiet. But right now, I need to tell you about the room upstairs. The last guest left sometime after dark, I heard the wagon wheels on the frozen lane, and then nothing. The farmhouse belonged to his parents, and the room they had prepared was at the top of the stairs. A narrow bed with a white quilt pulled tight, one candle on the washstand, the window curtain drawn against a December sky with no moon. I was already sitting on the edge of the bed when I heard his boots on the stairs. Slow. One step, then a breath, then the next step, then a breath. As though each stair was a decision he was making separately. The door opened. He closed it behind him without turning around. I could see his shape in the dark near the washstand. Broad shoulders, head slightly bowed, one hand resting on the edge of the basin. Neither of us spoke. The candle was the only thing alive in that room, besides us, and it was barely alive, guttering in the draught from the door. Then he did something I did not expect. He picked up the candle. He did not bring it to the bed. He carried it to the small chair beside the bed and sat down. He placed the candle on the table between us, so the flame was level with our faces. Even. Close. And he turned toward me. His eyes were green. I had not known. I had imagined brown or blue or grey through all those weeks of porch visits and Sunday silences, but they were green, the colour of the east field in early June before the hay is cut. That particular green that only lasts a week before the sun bakes it gold. And they were wet. Not crying, just full. Like a cup filled exactly to the rim that has not yet spilled. He looked at my face the way I had looked at my own face in Leah's mirror. Slowly, carefully, moving from my eyes to my mouth, to my prayer cap and back, as if he was memorizing what he had been denied. He did not speak for a long time. The candle steadied. The draught settled. Then he said one sentence. He said, "I have been waiting to see you." He did not say I was beautiful. He did not say I was what he had hoped for. He said he had been waiting. And that was more than enough. That was more than anyone had given me in 17 years of living. That was everything I had been too afraid to ask God for, because I thought wanting it was pride. I looked back at him, and I saw the candle flame reflected in both his eyes. Two small, identical fires. And I thought I needed him to look at me, so I could know if he loved me. But that was not it. I needed him to look at me, so I could know that I was real. I woke to the sound of bootlaces. 5:47 in the morning, grey December light pressing thin through the curtain, like something trying to get in but not quite willing. He was sitting on the edge of the bed with his back to me, shoulders forward, head bowed, pulling the laces tight with the same slow hands that had carried the candle the night before. He did not turn around. I lay still and watched the back of his neck, the dark hair, the white collar, the same straight line I had memorized in the Yoda barn 3 months earlier, as if nothing had changed, as if the room upstairs had never happened. He stood. The floorboard creaked under his weight. He walked to the door and opened it and went down the stairs without looking back. The pattern had returned. The rules had come with the morning, the way frost comes with December, settling over everything, covering the living ground. But something had changed. I had seen his eyes, green, wet, full to the rim, and I would carry that colour through every silent breakfast, every porch evening where he stared at the field, every Sunday service where I saw only the back of his head, every decade of a marriage lived mostly in profile. One look. He gave me one true look in 47 years that said everything his mouth would never learn to say. And I lived on it the way a dry field lives on one good rain. Not because the rain was enough, but because the roots go deep enough to find what the rain left behind, down in the soil, long after the surface has gone hard again. If this story has stirred something in you that you have kept folded away for a long time, I would ask you to leave a word in the comments. Just one word for what you felt. I read every single one. And next time, I will tell you about the letter I found in his toolbox the spring after he died. You will want to hear that one. The light is fully up now in my kitchen. I can hear the sparrows in the maple outside the window, the ones that come back every May like they have an appointment they intend to keep. I am 79 years old. Eli has been gone 11 years. I found him in the barn on a cold morning, already still, his face turned toward the wall. Even in death, turned away. I put the hand mirror in the cedar chest that same week because I could not bear to see my own face and know that the one person who had truly looked at it was gone. That mirror sat in the dark for 11 years. This morning I brought it to the kitchen table and set it face down on the oak, and I sat with it through the whole grey hour before dawn. And now I am turning it over. I see an old woman, 79, brown eyes still too wide for a humble girl, a mouth that never did learn to smile small enough, lines the years have drawn without asking permission, each one a record of something I yielded to. I do not look away. If you have spent your whole life waiting for someone to turn toward you, if you have memorized people from across rooms and loved them from the side, and wondered if the version of you that exists in their eyes is even close to the version that is real, I want you to know something. The mirror is already in your hand. You do not need anyone's permission to look. I held it up this morning the way he held the candle that night, level with my face, steady, close. And for the second time in my life, I was seen. This time by my own eyes. And that was enough. There is so much more I have not yet said. But the light is up, and I am still here. And so, I think, are you.